everyone. Welcome to the Caniac Chronicles. I'm your chronicler, Andy, and this is Season 1, Episode 14. So it's been quite a couple of weeks now since I've done an episode, and I do apologize for that, but, some commitments with my regular 9 to 5 during the week last week, and then, I had my family in town, too, visiting us this past weekend. Which was a blast. It was good to see them. Good to see, we ended up going to a Virginia Tech game on Saturday, which is my alma mater. So it was good to return there and spend the time with them. So I appreciate everyone's patience in these last couple of weeks. We're back on track with the regular episodes, and I'll just jump straight into it today. So it's been a little bit of a lull in the past week and a half with regards to performance, and, outcome on the games. The Canes I think they've kind of split the last 6 games, 3-3. But again, and really the theme of this episode is we're going to kind of be talking about, a couple of specific players I had in mind. I wanted to give a few minutes of, airtime to, and just the team at large. Everyone, we're still working through our injuries right now. We're not at a full roster. In fact, 3 of our best defensemen, really arguably 3 of our top 4 defensemen are out on injury right now. That's Slavin, Miller, and Gostisbehere, so we're without those guys. We're without a number of people right now, but the team is still finding ways to win, stay in it, and we're going to talk about a couple of people specifically. The team at large, this will probably be a quicker episode. I think I'd like to try and keep this one to a half an hour or so let's just get right into it. So the first player I want to talk about, probably would have been the second player we talk about if they didn't score their first goal as a Cane this past game against, who was it? The New York Rangers. Excuse me, I don't know why I stalled there for so long. It was just yesterday. But Nikolai Ehlers, right? Nikolai Ehlers brought in from free agency from the Winnipeg Jets. Guy was brought in to basically do what he's done so far, which is create space, drive through teams on a one-man show kind of thing. He has phenomenal stick handling skills. He's a great skater too, and a good skater with the puck at that as well. And he's been noticeable, I want to say, in essentially every game he's played in. I think even though the stat line for him, even like if you look at him on paper, if you look at his goals, his assists, his points, not quite, the production that he saw in Winnipeg when he was with the Jets. But if you're watching the games, if you're watching Ehlers shift by shift, in my opinion, he's more than contributing on offense. He's more than contributing to this team in terms of the ultimate goal, which is winning, every game or as many games as possible in the regular season, and then taking that, success into the playoffs. He is, like I said, he's a great stick handler. He's very confident with the puck. I can't remember a time in Hurricanes history when we've had a player like this. I think kind of the closest thing I can remember is probably back when we had Jeff Skinner. And, even Jeff Skinner, though, he would eventually, I felt he would do a little too much. He would hold on to the puck a little too long, or, just at some point in the middle of a sequence, defenses would make a play on him and break his play into the neutral zone up. And we also didn't really have too many weapons to pair with Jeff Skinner either. So even after he did all that work, he would almost kind of be still out there on his own, still dealing with the play on his own and not having anyone to dish it off to or feed it off to ultimately convert on the play and obtain a goal. Ehlers brings that back to the Hurricanes for the first time in a very long time. And again, even if you don't see it on paper for Ehlers, he's obviously contributing a lot for Seth Jarvis and Sebastian Aho, creating a lot of space for them. Pulling bodies, pulling defensive bodies in toward him. I've often seen 1, 2, or 3 defensive players make an attempt or even follow him through a failed attempt to try and lock him down, to really try and stop his movement with the puck. And that really opens up the ice for not just the team at large, but, for your big stars in Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis. And again, they've both had a lot of success thus far into the season. Aho is sitting at 12 points now in 12 games, I believe. And Jarvis, I think, has 7 goals, I want to say now, 4 of which are game winners, mind you. So the offense is coming. It's just not specifically coming from this one player that you probably would have expected it to. But I think slowly we're seeing that is, anything out there that's not going the way you wish it would. It's just a matter of giving it time to marinate, giving it time to develop and find its rhythm. And eventually, those changes will be seen. Those changes will come. And I think Nikolai Ehlers is no different. And we've seen him get his first assist as a Cane recently. Yesterday in the Rangers game, in the shutout, the second shutout against the Rangers in MSG this season, we see Ehlers score his first goal as a Hurricane. And boy, was it a goal, man. I mean, if there's ever a goal to score, it's ringing one off the wide pipe like that. He had a decent amount of distance to score from too. He was kind of at the top of the circle, the top of the face-off circle, off to the side. Jarvis, or I think it was Jarvis, but Jarvis or Aho had provided a phenomenal screen for him. I'm pretty sure all Igor Shesterkin saw was the backs of our brand new white jerseys, and you got a good look at those. You got a good look at the threads and all the little Easter eggs and intricacies of the new jersey from that screen. And Ehlers blasts it off the pipe, the far post. It goes in, and the biggest sigh of relief kind of came over him. You really felt that when he first got his first assist as a Hurricane. That first point, it was a big deal for him. It got a decent-sized monkey off his back, but that goal really, really, got one off his back. And the best part about it was, it was in New York. It was in MSG, a crowd that could really bring life to the home team that they support in the New York Rangers. And unfortunately for this crowd, they've now played 5 or 6 games in MSG, and they have not really had anything to show for it, to get their fans into it. They're 0-5-1 in their first 6 home games, and they've been shut out in 4 of those games. No goals in 60% or 66% of your first home games. You're not even seeing a goal. Imagine being a full-time, season ticket holder for the Rangers, and you're paying those prices, those New York City prices for them. So, really good to see that go down in New York City against the New York Rangers. It ultimately ended up being the game-winning goal because it was a shutout. Excuse me, and Aho did manage to get an assist on the play. So big deal there for the FanDuel bet that I have going, the 100 plus points on the season for Aho. I've been letting it ride since the beginning, and every point on from him is music to my ears. But seeing Ehlers score that goal, that was huge. That was very big for the team. I'd like to say that here we go. We can start to begin to expect to begin to see what we've always sort of expected to come from Nikolai Ehlers. But, give it some time still. I don't necessarily think that the floodgates are going to open at this point. Obviously, I'd be more than thrilled if that's the case. But let's keep things realistic. Don't put too much pressure on the guy for now. Good things will continue to come. In fact, why don't we save that burst of points for the playoffs? I mean, let's take it easy on this regular season. We clearly don't need the points at this point in the season. Although it is a tight race in the East for both divisions, I do ultimately think that Carolina comes not necessarily on top in the Metro, but I do believe that they'll be comfortable in terms of punching a ticket to the playoffs as we approach the end of this season. So, and really that'll kind of be the theme. I think the overarching theme of the episode as we move through it. But good signs from Nikolai Ehlers. Good plays rather. Although the production specifically from him is not there, like I've said. I think what he has brought to this team is opening up a lot more avenues for other players to succeed and be successful. And that's huge for this Carolina team. Like I've said, they've never really truly had this type of player in their arsenal, especially in the recent years. A guy who can, work his way through defenses, create space for people, pull defensive players off of their zone, off of their station, and open things up for other guys. He's a very creative player, and that certainly has shown up until this point in the season, in my opinion. So loving what I'm seeing from him. I wish him continued success. Let's see. In the next 3 games, I think we can definitely cash bank on a Nikolai Ehlers goal in probably the next 3 to 5 games. I think that's more than acceptable to expect, and we'll see what more he can deliver, if anything. The next guy I want to talk about is Alexander Nikishin. The guy is still learning his English, doesn't fully speak the language yet, and can't really blame him. But he speaks the language of hockey, that's for sure. And he speaks specifically the language of being a top to bottom defenseman. We talk about Slavin. Well, I at least talk a lot about Slavin being such a good and mechanical and analytical defenseman. A defenseman who makes very little mistakes. A defenseman who bails his team out and his goalie out constantly, left and right. A defenseman who makes very difficult defensive plays look like, you or I could do it without really doing much training whatsoever. He is a fantastic defenseman to model a type of play or a style of play out of. With that being said, though, we never really see too much offense from Slavin, and that's not a dig on him. It's just a matter of fact. His defensive game is so solid, so almost near perfect, that we sort of, we're okay with sacrificing that offensive prowess from him. Although he has had some pretty unbelievable goals from the goal line. He's roofed some literally almost from the goal line before, which is always fun to watch. But I'd much rather see him break up a 3-on-1 the other way or a 2-on-1 the other way and not even have to worry about Kochetkov or Anderson having to make a play on it. Anyways, back to the guy that this is all about, Alexander Nikishin. That guy is the total package of a defenseman. And I would venture to guess that he will one day be in contention for the Norris Trophy Award, because he does have the offense, he does have the hockey sense to know when to pinch his point, when to come down the boards with the puck, when to hold the puck. Instead of taking a shot, an ill-advised shot, he made a very good play last night against New York, where he kind of got fed a pass that you see unfolding and assume that he's going to end up trying to take the shot from the far side. But, a guy ended up closing in as the pass was coming across, and he was smart enough to kind of fake that shot, pull back on it, and continue walking it around the net to really reassess, the play that's going on, let players get kind of break up from the scrum that they might have had one-on-one with their defensive pairing, and reassess the play and maintain possession in the offensive zone. The Hurricanes had the New York Rangers completely shut down last night, and Nikishin was a very big role in doing that. He's a really good skater. He's got really good speed. He has really good stick handling. He's got a decent bomb from the point in terms of a shot. And his hockey sense is just through the roof. He knows he can make defensive plays, he can make offensive plays, he can make neutral zone plays. Like I've said, from an aspect of being a top to bottom defenseman, Nikishin is your guy. I'm so excited to see this guy develop across his tenureship with the Hurricanes, and I hope he ends up staying, because he is going to be a force to be reckoned with. My brother and I were talking about it this weekend, and Nick was really sharing on Quinn Hughes being, the American branded Cale Makar. Well, I think, have sort of the next best thing, which is the Russian branded Cale Makar, in my opinion. And, just really good stuff from Nikishin. He has also shown up on the point, the goals and assists. He has a decent amount of goals, a decent amount of assists. In fact, let me try and pull that up now while I'm talking. But unlike Nikolai Ehlers, Nikishin is putting together a pretty decent season of goals and assists. So he has, in the 12 games played, he has 2 goals, he has 4 assists for a total of 6 points, and he's sitting at a +10. And I'm not the biggest fan of plus minus, don't get me wrong, but there's only 2 guys on the Hurricanes who are plus double digits. Him and Mike Riley, of all people. And Mike Riley has played 3 games less than Nikishin. So Nikishin is, he's got a lot going for him. Like I said, that plus minus stat is more or less just as a measurement of a guy's hockey sense, in my opinion, specifically a defenseman. Because a defenseman's hockey sense sort of directly impacts your goals against, in my opinion. If you have a defenseman who makes a poor decision hockey sense wise, he could leave his goaltender in an odd man rush, and even potentially an odd man rush that has no defense coming back with it, a 1-on-0, a 2-on-0, whatever it might be. And so they can really drive the fortunate or unfortunate execution of a game, depending on how smart and how high that hockey sense is for any particular defenseman. And Nikishin's, I'm telling you, is very high. It's a really high hockey sense. It's very reassuring to see, when your team needs something out of him, whether it be a defensive play or an offensive decision or an offensive pinch. In fact, what they really needed the other night against Boston was a goal, just a goal to break that shutout. I didn't, get the chance. I didn't really watch them play Boston. I didn't get to watch them too much play Vegas, nor did I get to watch them play whoever they played in the middle of Vegas and Boston. Oh, New York Islanders, that's right. They laid the boom on New York 6-2. But then they went up to Boston. They were down 0-2, I think by the halfway mark of the game, and it was a late goal there that from Nikishin, mind you, that finally allowed them to get over that potential shutout unfolding. So again, really good stuff from Nikishin thus far. He looks like the best thing I can kind of say about it is he really looks like he has been in this league for quite some time. He does not look like these are his first few regular season games. He does not look like he doesn't even look like he just those few postseason games that he had were all that he got. He looks truly like he's been in this league for quite a while, and I can't wait to see this guy develop more on this team, and I can't wait to see, what more he ends up bringing to this team in the future. So, again, those were the two specific people I wanted to make comments about. I'll get into some general comments now about the team, and then we'll break for the end of the episode until next week. But I've kind of harped on this before in the past. I at least feel like I have. I'm already forgetting all the stuff I talk about on here, which is probably not good, but I can't stress it enough. This team, I know that they're hurting. I know that they're dealing with a lot of injuries, way more than you could have ever expected. Robinson, Slavin, Miller, Goss to spare. Who else has been out of the lineup? Thank God Aho hasn't been yet. I guess, Jarvis had a pretty rough night that night against Vegas. He ended up going down the tunnel, I believe. But he hasn't missed any games since, so knock on wood, that's great news. But this team has dealt with a tremendous amount of injuries and a tremendous amount of penalties too, I might add. This team, as always, per usual, where the refs seem to find us to be penalty, machines. And we're dealing with all this adversity right now. That's really the bottom line I'm trying to get to. We're dealing with a lot of adversity, more than the franchise really has ever dealt with, I think, in past years. I can't really think of an equal time, especially because Slavin almost never misses games, and he hasn't even really played a whole lot this season. I think it was the first 2 games, and that was it for him. But like I've said in the past, this team is deep, 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 not just on the roster itself, but even down into the Chicago Wolves, the team that they can pull players from to come up and fill those gaps while guys are sitting out and resting. And those guys have come up large. Nadeau, got his first goal the other night. Nystrom looks great out there. Another person I could really speak specifically about. He is just like Nikishin in the sense that he is making great decisions. Love to see the decisions he's making. He's not making mistakes because of how smart he is with the choices he's making and the decisions he's making out on the ice. And that's the bottom line. That's the minimum. Really, that's all you ask for, especially from defensemen who are getting called up. That's all you ask for from the prospects or the minor leaguers that end up getting called up is just do your job. Don't make mistakes, and the team, will handle the rest for you. And if some goals or some assists come your way, all the better. And Nystrom has really been wise on the blue line. And I'm sure that, that's part of the guys, part of the team, welcoming him as well as they always do. They're always commended on how good they are at welcoming new players into this club. But all the support that they show him, I'm sure really helps his mentality there. So even though, he's not really doing anything in terms of goals or assists, he's at least not doing anything in terms of goals or assists the other way, going against you. That's ultimately, in my opinion, more important, like I've said. But, you go through the score sheets here, and between the guys who are covering the gaps that are being created due to these players' injuries is one thing. But then you look at the score sheets too, and you just see the variety, the diversity of players out there that are tallying points on this team. Stankoven chips in every now and then. Blake had a little. I think he had like a 4-game point streak going on or something the other day. So the points are coming in. The games are being won. I know we're 8-4, and you'd probably like to have a couple of those losses back. Certainly, at least one against Vegas, and ultimately that Bruins game I would really like to have seen be a win. But you're playing that one on the road. You did play Vegas on the road, and even at home, Vegas is a tough team. They're a heavy team. And if you're an injured team, they're not the easiest to play. But, like I've said in past episodes, it is more important to go through the diversity. It's more important to go through that adversity now, early in the season, when you still have a lot of time to make up for anything that you've lost, as well as it's not the playoffs and, you're not playing just to keep your season alive at this point in time. So I think that is going to bode well for coming down the home stretch and into the playoffs with this team. If they do make it, I think it will bode well in the long run. So very important to just keep a level head right now. Understand that the players are just as frustrated about their injuries as we are. So give them a break, give them some credit, let them do their thing, let them heal up, and let them return to the lineup when they're ready. And, when that happens, who knows what is going to be able to stop this team, if anything. So, anyways, folks, again, I do apologize for not, providing an episode this past week. Although my brother and I did record a bonus episode, I hadn't made an announcement about it. So if you haven't seen that, it is exclusively on the Spotify, not on YouTube. It's MP3 only. So just know that you're not going to find it on the YouTube channel. It will be on Spotify. But again, just thanks for hanging in there. We're back on it next week, Wednesday. It'll be episode 15, season 1. And, let's hope we have a lot of good news, maybe a Ehlers hat trick or something to talk about. But in terms, nonetheless, excuse me. Have a great rest of your day, folks. Have a great evening, great morning, whatever time of day it is. I do look forward to chatting next week, and take care.